I didn't want to return to this topic, but since Snarkfield made a second new video, which was much better than their last one, I thought I had to make one more. Although I don't agree with everything said in his video, I think it was a really good watch, and I recommend it. I do want to point out that not only is a rope that isn't mechanical more painful, but the video didn't point out the violation is more intimate, and I figured that was an important detail. I think most people, when they talk about rope, this is what they're talking about, which certainly puts the silenced victims in Akira's comments into perspective. And yes, I am a victim of rope and essay myself, mechanical, further than mechanical, violent, and coercive. So Akira admits to deleting comments that meet the criteria of comparing trauma, spreading misinformation, and being disrespectful, which is interesting since who decides what misinformation is? If you don't care about victim voices and only care about your own opinion, just say that. Even aside from the fact, misinformation is just some cop-out to delete anything you disagree with. And yes, I did test if you delete respectful comments that simply disagree with you. Who are you to say victim voices don't deserve to be heard when they compare trauma, but yours does when you find jokes offensive? Your opinion still gets to be heard when you do something as disrespectful as reply to a comment discussing a violent essay that other essays happen too, when they have a valid point about how BDSM and a rope role play are functionally the same thing. Let's actually expand on a rope fantasy. Snarkfield pointed out it's actually a coin flip as to who has had one. You said your therapist told you it was harmful? Well, I had a therapist tell me BDSM is harmful. Do you deserve to be censored by YouTube for condoning BDMS? And no, I haven't forgotten that you admitted to being into bondage, which is a non-consensual element. Don't throw stones in glass houses. It's a far more defensible position to just say, if a rope roleplay causes feelings of self-blame and emotional pain, then it's not for the individual experiencing these things, but these issues are not inherent to the fantasy. So depending on the professional you talk to, they will have a different opinion. I know it's crazy that other people have different experiences with mental health professionals than you. Even if a rope roleplay was objectively bad, according to research that I don't think your therapist has, you don't have to delete comments you don't agree with. If victim voices matter, let victims be wrong or let victims be challenged by you or others. I think you can argue it does more harm to conflate reality with fiction. If you understand consent and that you had no control over being victimized, you can't even compare it to a situation where both you and your partner have equal power and respected boundaries. Does your therapist have data on how victims who can distinguish fiction from reality cope with such fantasies versus victims who can't? Comparing the two when it's not comparable may add to victim blaming. Do you also think we should ban video games? Now, I know some of you are now saying I must support Loli, and I don't, because it's wrong to be attracted to a child no matter what. The comments about a rope fantasy being an oxymoron have a point. Can we discuss the fact some people are attracted to furries? Animals shaped like humans? Why didn't you talk about that in your video? I got comments talking about how I was comparing trauma. I have to agree that comparing trauma can be bad. In a situation where you are just playing the victim, you shouldn't bring up trauma. If someone opens up to you about their trauma, you shouldn't make it all about yourself. But when you make a YouTube video discussing such a serious topic, promote BDSM, then police people with objectively more trauma than you in your comment section about fictional scenarios, while deleting their comments and preaching about victim voices, comparing trauma is not only relevant, but also fair game. You also critique Vivian on how she said Valentino is redeemable. I have no opinion, but I have to ask if your therapist told you someone like Valentino is irredeemable. Akira, I don't know if you'll watch this video. Considering you didn't address barely a thing I said in my last one or my comments, I'm gonna guess you didn't or won't. I understand if the conversation being out of your control and about such a serious topic is too much for you, but then you should have just not publicly discussed this in the first place. You didn't have to claim victim voices need to be heard, and you didn't have to delete comments. If you can't handle it, please don't hurt victims who have been through more.